Hi, I'm Dr. Nick Neneman with Neneman Chiropractic Clinic, and thanks for joining us again this week for our weekly video blog series. Great topic today. This is something I get asked all the time by patients. It's a pretty common question. Doc, what do I use, ice or heat? Get asked that all the time, and it can be confusing for people. When they're in pain. Do you use ice or heat? So here's how I'm going to answer that. The general rule is 72 hours. So within the first 72 hours or 3 days of injuring yourself, whether it be lifting something and getting pain in your back, or you wake up, you slept wrong and your neck's really sore and hurting, just anytime pain starts within the first 72 hours, you want to use ice. Ice helps get rid of inflammation. How ice works is it actually constricts the blood vessels in that area, and by constricting the blood vessels, when those blood vessels constrict, it pushes out inflammation. So that's literally how ice works. It pushes inflammation out of the area by constricting blood vessels. So again, within the first 3 days or 72 hours of you hurting yourself or pain starting, you want to use ice. Once you're past those 72 hours, those first 3 days, go ahead and start using heat. It's okay to use heat. How heat works, heat dilates the blood vessels, so it's going to open up the blood vessels, causing increased blood flow to an area. How the heat works, when you bring more blood flow to an area, you allow healing to occur, and when that extra blood's coming to the area, it helps loosen up muscles, the joint, and it just makes you feel better. So one rule I always say is that if you're really not sure, you can't go wrong by using ice. You can always use ice, really. Even past 72 hours, it is okay to use ice. You're never really going to go wrong with using ice. It's always going to help reduce any little bit of inflammation you may have. With heat, you can go wrong. You really don't want to use heat in that first 72 hours because, with what I said, if you use heat in that first 72 hours, you dilate the blood vessels. That brings more inflammation to the area. So by using heat within the first 72 hours, you can actually increase inflammation, which is what you don't want. When you're trying to decrease your pain levels. Again, you can't ever go wrong with ice. You can go wrong with heat. Now, one thing I do say for people past 72 hours, I recommend using heat. But one thing you can do, because I have a lot of patients say, well, my pain's down now, but I go to work in the morning, I'm doing okay, and by the end of the day, when I go home at night, I'm a little sore, So what I tell those people is, before you go to work in the morning, as long as it's past the 72 hours when your pain started, go ahead and use heat, because that's going to bring blood to the area, loosen up the area. You're going to go to work feeling good. Now, at the end of the day, when you get home, even though you're past that initial 72 hours, after working all day, you might have a little bit of increase in inflammation. So at the end of the night, before you go to bed, put some ice on it. Wake up the next morning before you go to work, put some heat on it again. Come back at the end of the night, put ice on it. So that's something you can do as well when you're past 72 hours. Now, one last thing that I always say with ice is never ice more than 20 minutes at a time. Because maybe you've heard the term frostbite. If you leave an ice pack on an area for an hour, you're constricting the blood vessels for an hour, and you don't want a lack of blood flow to an area for an hour. So that's why, again, put ice on for 15 to 20 minutes. At 20 minutes, take it off. Let the normal blood flow come back to what it is. You can wait 45 minutes to an hour, and then you can go ahead and ice again for another 15 to 20 minutes. So you can ice as much as you want all throughout the day, as long as you're giving a solid 45 to 60 minutes in between icings. And as far as heating, with heat, it's not as big of a deal. They're not. You could potentially burn the area. Obviously, you don't want to do that. As a general rule, 20 minutes of heat is good too. When you're done with 20 minutes with heating, call it good. You're not necessarily. There's not as big of a danger or issue if you did go past 20 with heat. But as a general rule, just go 20 minutes tops with ice or heat. But yeah, this is all good information. Hopefully it'll help you at home so you know what to do when it comes to using ice or heat. Thanks for listening today. Join us next week again. We'll have another great topic to talk about. Have a great weekend. Thanks.